All right, so let me conclude now by talking about these great figures that have emerged in human history and compare them, okay? So as I mentioned at the beginning of the class, without Robespierre, Napoleon would not have been possible, all right? So this chart shows us how. You compare Robespierre and Napoleon. Robespierre obtained his power through virtue and dedication. He worked 18 hours a day. He was completely dedicated to the revolution. He had no girlfriend. He had no money. He was not being paid for his work. All he was doing was to ensure the revolution would succeed. And because of his dedication and virtue, the revolution was saved and it succeeded, okay? So without Robespierre, the French Revolution would not have been possible. He was a prophet of reason. He believed that everyone had the capacity to reason. So if you present a logical argument, people would understand it, okay? And that was both the source of his virtue, but it was also the source of his downfall, because he could not imagine that his friends would conspire against him because they wanted to protect their own self-interests, okay? And the third thing about Robespierre that's important is he saved the French Revolution. Now let's compare him with Napoleon, okay, who's the complete opposite. Napoleon got to where he was because of political maneuvering. He was able to identify political patrons early in his career, and he did whatever they asked of him. And then together, they launched a coup d'etat against the French Republic. And after the coup d'etat succeeded, he betrayed his political allies. And he amassed power for himself. That's how he became emperor, okay? So Napoleon, he's a great politician. We think of him as a general, but he's really a politician. The thing about Napoleon that made him so successful is his myth-making genius. He understood that people are looking for myths, and he knew how to present himself as a mythic figure, like the Messiah, okay? And as a result, he destroyed the French Republic. Now, what's interesting is that if you look at human history, figures like Napoleon appear always at the end of a republic, okay? So Napoleon killed the French Republic, but they have Julius Caesar, who is of the same personality, okay? Julius Caesar was able to identify political patrons very early on and outmaneuver them as they amassed power. Julius Caesar was focused on creating a myth of himself as this unbeatable general. And as a result, he destroyed the Roman Republic. Later on, we will study Hitler. Guess what, guys? Hitler follows the same pattern, all right? Hitler was able to amass power because he outmaneuvered his political patrons and allies. We will study this, okay? Remember, the Nazis did not come out of nowhere. The Nazis were a force incubated by the German army in order to destroy the communist movement, okay? And Hitler took advantage of this. Hitler got to where he was because he created a myth of himself as a savior of the German people, right? And then he destroyed the Roman Republic, okay? Why is this important? Because it's entirely possible we are living at another inflection point in history where the American Republic may be destroyed. Trump, okay? How did Trump get to where he is? Political maneuvering. Why is he president? Because he has a myth-making genius, okay? That's really important to understand about Trump. Everyone's like, Trump is a terrible business person. He's lost a lot of money. Trump doesn't understand tariffs. He doesn't understand the economy. He doesn't care. He understands mythology, okay? He understands how to capture people's attention. He knows how to instill an image of himself as a Messiah in people's minds. That's what he cares about, right? He doesn't need to succeed. He needs to act. And then he needs to present himself in a way that captures people's imagination. What does Trump spend all his time on? He spends all his time talking to the press. That's his job, okay? Do you understand? His job is not to think about economics or military matters. His job is to talk to the press and create an image of himself as a Messiah to the American people, okay? So the question then is, okay, well, listen, if we see this pattern, Napoleon, Caesar, Hitler are the same person, the results are the same, and Trump is similar to Napoleon, Caesar, and Hitler, what's going to happen? I don't know, okay? All right? But, okay, and this is really important, if, in fact, in the next 10 years, and it will probably take 10 years, if Trump actually destroys the American Republic, okay, then a pattern emerges in history. All right? And if this pattern is consistent, now we're able to control history because we're able to foresee and predict history. Okay? So that's the idea. Okay, That's it? Any questions? Was this clear to you guys? All right, good.
If Napoleon was so selfish, why would about how to pronounce the what man's name?
Robespierre.
Robespierre being so obedient for him.
Okay, that's a great question. Okay, why did Napoleon succeed where Robespierre failed? Okay. So the difference is this: if I'm Robespierre, I believe everyone is capable of reason, right? Therefore, you have a responsibility to reason for yourself. You understand? I will give you ideas, but you must come to your own conclusions. You must act independently of me, okay? And Napoleon's like, no. People don't want to think. People want to believe. People want to obey. If I present myself as Messiah, and I tell people, follow me, and I will lead you to paradise, people will want to follow me, okay? And people love this confidence, right? This charisma, this confidence of Napoleon. Think of Trump, right? Maybe you and I think Trump's an idiot, but if you're a normal person, you believe that Trump, he is a genius because he's so confident, right? People are attracted to confidence. Does that make sense? People aren't attracted to logic or reason. They're attracted to confidence and charisma. Trump tells everyone, follow me and the world will be fine. We will make America great again. And, you're like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Doesn't matter, okay? What Trump has done is create a mythology that has captured people's imagination. And as such, people are willing to die for this. Does that make sense? That's what made Napoleon such a great military leader. Because he had this confidence. And people just had to follow him, okay? Does that make sense? Okay. Great question. Any more questions?
So I don't understand how Trump is myth making. What's his steps?
Okay, myth making, okay? Myth making is, all right, there's reality. Okay, why is Trump a myth making genius? Okay, there's reality, right? These are things that you and I see every day. And then there's myths. These are ideas that we have about how society works, okay, about how the world works. Now, objectively speaking, Trump is a failed business person. His father was a great business person, Fred Trump, who built a real estate empire. And then Trump came along and took this empire over, and he almost bankrupted this empire, okay? And so Fred Trump was spending a lot of his time thinking about how to make money. Like, how do I make a great business? How do I hire good people? How do I motivate them? How do I steal more money from the government, okay? So he was focused on the very specifics of running a business. Trump is like, no, people don't want that. People want to see a successful billionaire, okay? And what's a successful billionaire? He sleeps with beautiful women, right? I'm going to find beautiful women, and I'm going to sleep with them, and the press is going to report it. And then people were like, oh my God, this guy is a god, because all these beautiful women want to sleep with him. Therefore, I should give him my money to spend, to invest, because he's a genius, okay? What people want is a mythology of success. Does that make sense? So what made Trump actually really famous is a show called The Apprentice. The Apprentice, it's a TV show, it's made up, and the show presents Trump as this extremely wise and forward-looking business person. And he's the opposite in reality, okay? But what Trump understands is really important is people don't care about reality. People want to watch a TV show that's exciting, that's interesting, that's fun. So if I turn politics into a TV show and everyone's watching all the time, they will always want me to be president. Does that make sense?
So they only care about what it looks like great, right?
Yeah, because, so is perception more important than reality? And the answer is yes, okay? And the reason why is reality, it is very hard. It's very difficult, all right? People prefer simple ideas, simple myths that allow them to better navigate reality. That's why religion is important, okay? So what Trump's doing is he's creating a religion. He's creating a religion about himself, right? And it's really the same idea as Napoleon. Napoleon says this, right? I saw the way to achieve my dreams. I would found a religion. I saw myself as marching into Asia, mounted on an elephant, a turban on my head, and in my hand a new Quran that I would have composed to suit my needs. MAGA is a new religion. Okay? Make America great again. Don't think of it as a political movement. Think of it as a new religion. And I will explain to you why Trump is so powerful. Okay? I think Trump will be president of the United States for the next 10 years. It is very hard to remove him because, like, once you remove him, the TV show ends. You understand? Now you have to go back to reality. People don't want that. People want to live in a TV show. Exactly. That's exactly right. People want to live in a dream. It's perfect. Thank you. People want to live in a dream because that's what makes life bearable. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah. But what if some decisions has caused this dream to be maybe like, well, not fell, but it's being more dramatic, but it's in a negative way. Like people are not having better lives, they're suffering and they felt that, and will it still continue?
Okay, that's a great question. Okay, so the argument against this is like Trump is a terrible economic leader, and so with his tariff war against China, with all of these policies, it's just going to make the American person more poor. Okay, so less money spent. The American won't be able to afford a house. Okay, so this is really important, but you have to think about people's psychology. All right, so sorry, let me write this down because it's a very important idea. Okay, you have to understand people's psychology. Okay, people are not capable of thinking in absolute terms. Does that make sense? Like if I give you a bottle of wine, okay, this bottle of wine, okay, and I give you another bottle of wine, and I ask you to tell me which is better, you're not able to do it, okay? But I told you this one is $50, this one is $10. You know this has to be better. Do you understand? So people's psychology is very interesting, but people cannot think objectively, okay? People can only compare and contrast. So let's just say, okay, trade war. The American consumer is losing purchasing power, right? So the person is getting more poor. But if China is getting more poor in this time, right? So U.S. goes down, but China goes down even more. People are happy. Do you understand? Okay, I know this is terrible, but this is true. I don't have to make you rich. I just have to make everyone else poorer, and then you're happy, right? Make America great again. Make America great again. Do you understand? Being great, it's just a perception. I'm better than everyone else, and then I'm great. I don't have to be wealthy. I just have to be better off than everyone else. So the entire world is poorer. America is happier. Does that make sense? Okay? So that's a logic here. Trump doesn't want to make America wealthy again. He needs to make America a myth again. You understand? He wants to create the myth of a great America because the rest of the world is either at war or it's bankrupt or people feel hopeless. Okay, do you understand? And honestly, he's right, okay? He's absolutely correct in this matter. All right? And that explains why he's doing what he's doing, okay? Does that make sense? Okay, great. Any more questions? All right.